Living a simple, single day of my life is becoming a much deeper journey than I previously suspected. For years, I've been comfortable passively observing what was happening to me in my life. I was not confused by conscious proactivity, manifesting freedom, authenticity, and flow. This journey is changing how I relate to everything. What personal practices will support me on this journey? How do I live a life of freedom, authenticity, and flow?
Go in by the narrow gate, for the wide gate has a broad road which leads to disaster, and there are many people going that way. The narrow gate and the hard road lead out into life, and only a few are finding it.
Really, the thing that we've had to kind of work with the most is the idea of play. And in our culture, that word is used pretty lightly and loosely, and sometimes it's kind of within a dismissive sort of way. Play is something children do, and we're supposed to be serious and grown up and mature and all of that stuff. And really what we were discovering was that play was all of those things, lighthearted and frivolous and fun and all of those things, and it's also got a lot of depth to it. And sometimes it's very serious. We used to say, we figured out if there was a point where tears and laughter were happening at the same time, that's where God was. So it's like that. Those things are deeply met. And so we have this really broad idea of what play is, and I think we also have a broad idea of what fun is. But at the very basic, it's a pleasurable physical experience. And it's not always in community. You can have fun on your own, but there is often a community element to it. So I think one of the other things that we learned was that if you can get people to laugh together, that's the best way to create a group connection without having to touch. If you can get people in physical contact with each other, that's also a good way to create a sense of groupness. But if you can get them to laugh together, they'll have that same experience, without necessarily having physical contact. So
it's a little wilder. Fun is a little wilder. And so it's therefore also a little more mysterious. I think we tend to discount anything, separate ourselves a little bit from anything that maybe put us on edge a little bit. So there's a good reason for that. I do not trust a lot of people just willy-nilly. I want to know that I'm going to be safe enough when I enter a space. So to have fun or to play, which means I'm not going to know what the outcome is and how to do that socially, plays well with others. How am I going to do that? I want to have my curiosity invited. I want to know that my mind is going to be involved. I want to know that I can take care of myself. I want to know that this is a permission-based space. It's not a controlled space. Somebody isn't going to tell me how I'm supposed to behave. We know that we create safe enough spaces through having that in our bodies. And we teach other people to have that in their bodies too. We encourage it, that we're playing, but we're going to take steps. We're going to make this incremental. We're going to go together. We're going to find out and learn what's here together. We don't know what's here, right? But we have ways of going through a process, these little art forms and practices. And sure enough, over and over again, people feel like, oh, this is cool. I love this. And eventually many of them wind up saying, why do I ever want to do it another way? So play becomes, again, a blessed, beloved situation rather than a, don't mess with me because you're telling me to play. So which I think, a lot of play spaces aren't play spaces.
Most of you did not catch the error in the obituary. The heir was in relationship to Anne's age. Many of you are not aware that Anne was only 10 years of age. Yes, at the completion of her life, she did inhabit a 58-year-old body, but Anne was only 10. It might also be said that Anne was an ageless being. Anne was a paradox. Anne came into this world with a very old essence. Unlike most of us, she did not come into this world to take a personal growth journey. She came into this world to take a lot of other people on a growth journey, as she continues to do in this moment. Anne did not come into this world to personally change. She came into this world to change the world. Many of us, as you have heard today, have shared the privilege of being in Anne's presence or being the recipient of a collision with Anne as she demanded change and growth from us. Anne was an old, ageless being. Yet, paradoxically, at heart and in truth, Anne was only 10. I struggled personally with this special secret for many, many years. If this is confusing to you, it was to me as well. On our honeymoon, we watched the movie Big with Tom Hanks. It is the story of a 13-year-old boy whose wish to become big was granted. On the outside, he looked like a full-grown adult. On the inside, he was a 13-year-old child. Now, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. You will have a new appreciation for Anne. I had no idea when I first watched the movie Big, I was about to step into the script for the next 30 years. A child takes everything literally. They take the world literally. They take their feelings literally. They take their thoughts literally. They take their relationships literally. They take their friends literally. They take trust, morality, promises, and religious instruction literally. The reason many of us are here today is because Anne spoke with a true voice. She spoke of literal reality. Often her words presented an innocent inaccuracy because Anne had only limited interest in the minute details. She was never interested in the 10,000 good and logical reasons why something could not be done, especially if it was the right thing to do. She spoke with a true voice because her words were grounded in a deeper truth, the truth of the heart. It was that true voice, in one sense, the voice of a child, unpolluted by the complexities and nuances of adult perspective, that penetrated and transformed our lives. Anne spoke truth to each of us, especially when we did not choose to see it ourselves. The world of a child and the world of an adult are different. The adult often lives in their head. attempting to find or create meaning in a seemingly empty and meaningless world. Anne took life literally. The meaning of life for Anne was not something out there to be discovered or debated. The meaning of life was not to be experienced after she was dead in some universe next door. The meaning of Anne's life was always right in front of her. The meaning of Anne's life was her life. What is so real? What is so real that you and I choose to take it literally in our lives? What is it in our literal lives to which we assign absolute value? What is it in our literal lives that we assign the value of the absolute? Anne understood that she was the hands of God in this world. To enter the abundance of that consciousness in the light of the ultimate, you and I are left with the legacy and the imperative of Anne's example, to become as little children again, to take life literally. Thank you, Anne. While a child takes everything literally, and this was true of Anne, she married Mr. Metaphor. Over the next 30 years, we took each other on a journey, the repercussions of which will not be unraveled in my lifetime. And now, irony of ironies, Anne has left us. In leaving us, Anne has become a mythic figure, a metaphor, calling us to a deeper place within the context of our own lives. Anne has stepped out of the literal and into the mythic, into the metaphoric, out of time and into timelessness. Anne is now a transfigured one. She has become a messenger of the deep.
There's a wonderful book on Mary Magdalene and Jesus by a woman named Cynthia Bougeot. And she has a formula that we use at DePaul, because this is another course I teach. I teach a course on esotericism and the occult and Christian mysticism, right? And we use her book. And she has a formula. She has A equals E times K. When that means agape, love. This love that allows us to make these unconditional covenants. I say yes to you, no matter what, I'll work this out with you. And when you get two people doing that together, then you have the experience of Christ. Because you have two dead people now alive in a communion of saints. And then if that went on to 3 people and 5 and 10, and imagine the whole world living no longer for the egoic self, but for the other, the covenant. She says A, agape, equals E, eros. The erotic, the passionate that so oftentimes gets tangled with the egoic. Me, my pleasure, my satisfaction, my ecstasies. The egoic. To take the erotic, but to multiply it by what she calls the K, or the kenotic, the kenosis, which is what St. Paul says is what Jesus did. Though he was in the form of God, he did not deem equality with God something to be grasped at, but he emptied himself. The word there is kenosis. He emptied himself, becoming the form of a slave. A servant. If you wish to be the greatest, you become the least. You become a servant. As I have washed your feet, Now you wash the feet of each other. And that becomes your greatest erotic pleasure. Your greatest eros is to be of service to others in kenosis. Imagine that. Your greatest eros, your greatest erotic pleasure is to die in service to others. And that, she claims, is what agape is. Because agape is not the special feeling that you get, in the romanticism of our culture. Which is like an 18th century invention, this romanticism, and you have to have special feelings, and if the special feelings die, then I don't love you anymore, and all of this, that kind of stuff, special feelings. But this is not that at all. That's egoic. But when consciousness expands to this place of non-grasping, then it seems naturally we find ourselves in the agapic covenant making, where we find our greatest passion in emptying ourselves for the sake of others, and our great joy in washing each other's feet, and outdoing ourselves, St. Paul says, outdoing yourselves in charity, in love, outdoing yourselves.
Becoming a child, becoming a servant. Wow. This path to authenticity and the trust upon which it rests is not what I expected. Yet this journey resonates through a deep place within me. There is a chasm I am now compelled to traverse. Leap with me